Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Roundup. I am Liz Donatelli.
And I'm Libby Kay, author of the sweet romance series Buckeye Falls.
Libby and I are recommending fake relationship romance and sharing fake relationship romances on our to-be-read lists. Also, Libby and I are chatting with UK author Laura Carter about her new fake dating rom-com, Fake It Till You Make It. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance Channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Hello, Libby.
Hey, Liz, long time no see, with the exception of a few days ago.
That's right. Well, first off, I'm glad to be back in the saddle.
Yes, me too. Oh my gosh, I've missed it so much. And it's funny because I know we've only been doing this for a few months, but it has become such a part of my routine that when I'm not doing it, I'm just like, whoa. I know we've both been busy with various things. I've been writing, editing, and pulling my hair out in general. How are you?
Well, I broke my foot. I broke a bone in my foot.
Oh, I know.
Climbing up onto a counter to put something away, and I fell and broke my fifth metatarsal. And
Ugh.
I am booted and I have crutches, but I'm feeling better without using the crutches totally. So,
Oh, good.
but anyway, I'm in it for I'm only in 3 weeks in of a 8-week
Ugh.
boot situation. So it's been rough. But between that and then, like you said, you've been busy. We went on an unplanned hiatus.
Yes.
But we did see each other a few days ago. We were the
Yes.
conversation partners at Megan Quinn's book signing in Columbus, Ohio.
Which was a really great turnout. I mean, there was over 100 people. These were like rabid fans in a good way. I mean, it was really, they seemed to like the romance genre in general. It just, obviously they were there for Megan, but it was nice to see that level of enthusiasm for any romance author. I mean, obviously we love her books too, but you know what I mean.
For sure. And I would say there was like well over 100 people. What did we say? Like 125?
Like 125, I think. So
something
yeah,
like that.
was...
Yeah. Which was a big deal for the Barnes & Noble in Easton Town Center in Columbus.
It was the place to be on Friday, I'm telling you.
It was your birthday, April 5th.
Yes, happy birthday to me. It was a great event. Megan seemed to enjoy herself, so...
Yes, she did. And
a victory for Romance Roundup.
It was a success because of us. That's neither here nor there.
But we're modest about it.
Yeah. So I am excited to once again say these words.
Yes, and I'm excited to hear them.
Libby, let the roundup begin.
All right, giddy up, Liz. Here we go. So with fake dating, I have been going through the rabbit hole of my Goodreads list, and literal stacks of books, as you can see, are all around me if you're watching. And I decided to kind of do a different twist on this because I feel like obviously fake dating is not a trope that needs our help gaining popularity. So I tried to think back to ones I've read that I might not think about instantly as a fake date, but so here we go. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and you're going to be like, what are you thinking, Libby, is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, which is the first of the Bridgerton books. And there's a reason I decided to go with this one. Well, and for those of you who are not aware, Bridgerton is this series is the basis of the very popular Netflix series. The first one being this one came out in January of 2000 from Avon. So I wanted to find a historical romance that had fake dating. And most of them have more marriage of convenience or fake, engagements. And so I was really trying to find something that was like the fake dating. So I went with this one. Because it is fake dating. So, and if you've seen the show, you or anyone who's listening or watching, you're going to be like, well, I know that story already. But if you haven't read the book, I really think you should. The premise is basically the same as the show. We have Daphne, who is the first daughter, fourth child of the Bridgerton clan. We have the Duke of Hastings, also known as Simon, who had a turbulent relationship with his father and has sworn off marriage. He's never going to get married. Yeah, right. Whatever. The big difference between the book and the show is Simon's backstory is his plot point. So in the show, he has the speech impediment. That is something he continues to deal with into adulthood. And that is something that Daphne helps with a little bit. And I don't want to go into too much on that. But he,
Oh.
it's not just like his backstory, and I'm not going to say too much if you haven't read or seen the show, but his backstory about why he doesn't want to have children and how he decides to handle that situation with her, that is in the book and in the show. But Daphne's character is vastly different in the book in that there's not this whole diamond scene with the queen.
Oh.
She's grown up with brothers. She is in that circle. And so she's kind of already known as the Regency version of just one of the guys. And so that's kind of fun with Daphne's situation is she's basically seen as everybody's buddy, but she's not seen as someone who could be desirable on the marriage market.
Oh, that's
So
really interesting. I
yes,
really feel like I would enjoy the book better.
yes, they do. And again,
Wow.
it's the book's what, 24 years old at this point, but
Yeah.
it's a fun read. It has the same, wit and sense of humor that the rest of the Bridgerton books have, and
Right.
that I think comes through on the show as well. They do agree to do the fake dating like they do in the show. Out of all of the other historical romances I've read that have either the marriage of convenience or fake dating, this one felt the most, true to the trope of how they handle the dating part of it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm recommending it a lot, just not just because the third season of the show is about to come out and everyone's talking about it again, but I feel like if you read the book, you get such a more three-dimensional view of Simon as a person, of
Okay.
Daphne as a person. um yeah, I mean, it's a fun, quick read. And if you haven't read any of the Bridgerton books, I think it's kind of, obviously it's the first in the series, but it kind of also sets up all of the Bridgerton siblings. And I feel like there
Right.
are some interactions that obviously you can't make everything make it to the show, but you really, Julia Quinn sets up the characters in this first one. And I mean, you
Mhm.
really just fall for, yes, Daphne and Simon, but the Bridgerton clan in general, like the relationships between the siblings is
Right.
a lot of fun as a reader to get, entrenched in. So yeah, but if you're in the market for kind of hopping on the Bridgerton train a little late, I definitely recommend reading The Duke and I. And you can get it for like, I see it still on every end cap. Every time I go into a bookstore,
Yes.
even the grocery store, Kroger
Mhm.
still has it on display for Pete's sake. So if you do
Yeah.
want to go to your local library, it's not hard to find.
I like the direction you're going in. You're like, zigging where I thought you'd zag. So,
Exactly. I'm keeping you on your toes. It's been a little while, so I got to make sure I'm coming in fresh.
yeah, yeah. Now, I'm going to go the traditional route. So, I recommend The Match Faker by
Ooh,
UK author Olivia Spring. Now, Olivia actually reached out to me and had inquired if I'd be interested in reading an arc. And I was like, yeah, sure, because there's celebrity in this. There's
ooh,
and I don't know if I'm saying it right. People say celebrity normal person, celebrity normie, celebrity and a non-famous person.
yes,
So I'm always intrigued about that. So this was something that normally would not have been on my radar because I was unfamiliar with Olivia's work. So I was really excited to discover
yeah.
someone new to me. So The Matchmaker is a steamy fake dating former childhood best friends to enemies to lovers. So
Oh.
that yes, celebrity romance with an ice cream sex scene.
Ice cream sex scene.
There's an ice
Okay.
cream sex scene. That's
Is
right.
this like a euphemism or is there really ice cream?
No, actually, that would be quite a euphemism. What the ice cream represents. No, this is actual ice cream.
Okay.
Interesting that you thought it was a euphemism. Interesting.
I don't know what it would mean.
Well, I have some ideas,
I
but
mean, yeah, I do too now that I'm thinking about it, but
yeah.
we'll try to keep it PG.
This title actually is very new. It released in March 2024. So here's the gist.
Okay.
Mia Bailey is a matchmaker who owns her own matchmaking agency in London. And I love when stories are set in modern day London because it's the closest I'll probably ever get to being there. Mia is in financial trouble thanks to her a-hole ex-boyfriend. And that's a whole story. When Mia is nominated for Matchmaker of the Year by Happily Ever After magazine, a magazine that should totally exist,
I feel like it should. Is it a magazine just for matchmakers?
it's a magazine. It's explained in the book. It sounds like maybe Olivia had created a business plan for this magazine because it was very flushed out. All aspects of romance. So there was categories for best sex toy. There's category for like best, I think, a romance author. So it was like all things related to
That
romance.
sounds really cool. Like I would read that magazine if it
does.
existed in the real world.
It does. It does. It really needs to exist. So Mia is nominated for Matchmaker of the Year, and the prize is money, which Mia desperately needs, and lots of great publicity that could drive new clients to her.
Mm.
But here's the rub. Who's going to nominate a matchmaker who can't find herself a partner?
Oh, I was hoping this is where it was going.
So enter Hollywood action movie star and playboy Liam Stone. Liam is caught up in a sex scandal and is in need of a reputation makeover to make sure that, hey, he still gets future acting jobs and his reputation isn't totally crap. And he also does a lot of endorsement deals. So he wants to make sure, hey, listen, I've got to remove myself from this scandal, go back to London, my hometown, and work with, his team to do a career reset.
Okay.
And when he does that, he and Mia run into each other and reconnect after their friendship ended with bitter feelings on both sides. So neither one are really feeling too, lovey-dovey towards each other. So there
Yeah.
is, there's enemies to lovers, but I feel like it's not totally, they haven't really burned the bridges that much,
Okay.
which I like. It wasn't totally irredeemable.
Yes, because sometimes that's really hard as a reader to overcome your not hatred, but
Yeah,
dislike of someone if they, depending on what the reason that they aren't friends or together anymore.
exactly. So this was totally reasonable where you're like, okay, I could see them kind of overcoming, 'cause it's dual POV. So you understand from both points of view what happens and whatnot. So the couple reluctantly agreed to enter into a fake dating relationship. So that way Mia can say, hey, I'm a matchmaker who found her match. And Liam wants to show he's capable of being in a stable relationship and his Playboy days are over.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they both say, listen, we'll fake date until, we both get what we want, and then we could just part ways and never see each other again. But of course, feelings develop, and Mia and Liam realize that they want to give a romantic relationship a real chance.
Oh, this sounds really good. Is it a standalone or is it part of a series?
You know, as far as I know, it's a standalone, but I definitely could see. So Mia has a best friend who's, really fun. So I'm wondering if maybe she will get a book. But as far as I know, this is just a standalone.
Nice. I mean, either way, I'm intrigued.
Yes, no, it's really good. And a super cute cover. I'm such a sucker for book covers.
Covers absolutely sell books. I was
They
at
do.
the PLA conference last week, and all the publishers had their arcs out, and I'm sorry, I gravitate
Yeah.
towards the covers instantly. And I'm sure
Yeah.
I left some good looking books sitting behind because the covers weren't exciting enough.
Yeah, I know that's sad. Yeah, but
And I
it's
will
true.
say, every single cover of any romance publisher that was there was illustrated. I did not see any romance covers that weren't
Oh.
illustrated for their summer or spring, early summer arcs. Like, so I know that
Oh,
doesn't mean anything either way.
yeah.
It's interesting that trend still seems to be like 100% the way to go.
That's interesting that you've seen more publishers convert to that now. So it's almost
Yes,
across the board, even though, and I know we've talked about this, on and off, is, sometimes it's not representative of the heat level that's within the book or even
exactly.
the levity. Sometimes there's really strong issues or,
Yes,
even
and
trigger
if they
warnings
don't
for some
have
things. Yeah.
and if they don't list the trigger warnings at the beginning of the book, and again, I'll
Yeah.
just figure it out, but
Yeah.
I have been pleasantly and unpleasantly surprised with stuff in
Right. Right.
illustrated romance books. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. I only really see live models on indie authors.
yes.
their book covers. And it's interesting because they're really, I would imagine, paying more money for the models than illustrated covers are paying for, like, than authors are paying for illustrated covers.
Yes.
Um,
And have you noticed, and I can't remember, and I'm going to kick myself, but there's an author, it's an indie author, and she actually, I don't know if it's like friends, but like she has the same guy be the model for her whole series. But like the way that it's staged, you can't tell until I saw one of her Instagram posts. And I'm like, that's the same
Same
guy.
guy. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm very intrigued now. And I'm like, who is this person? And like in my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe they're going to fall in love and then she'll write a book, kind of like the Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum movie.
Oh, so you think the author
Yeah.
actually might have something
Yeah.
going on
I'm
with
like,
this model that's on all
yeah.
of her book covers? Now that would be an interesting story.
Yeah. So I don't know. But in my mind, I'm like already come up with 5 different scenarios for what's going to happen with these people. But yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah.
those are some pretty steamy books. And again,
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that a shirtless man on the cover is going to be a shirtless man throughout the book. So I don't know. And I don't mind being surprised. And I noticed that they're starting to give, this sounds really funny. They're starting to give men their heads back. Like I felt like for a couple years, it was only
Yes.
like chin to belly button of,
Correct.
shirtless men. And now
Correct.
they're starting to have their faces again.
Trying to get the faces back. That's interesting. I wonder what else will come back.
I don't know. I
Maybe
don't know.
clothes. Maybe clothes will come back.
Like hat, tie, like they're totally covered.
Yeah, I want to see. Right, from head to toe. Back to the match
Yes,
faker.
please.
The match faker is fantastically entertaining. I was actually reading this novel while also reading Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. And truth be told, this is going to be a controversial statement with you, Libby. I looked forward to reading The Match Faker way more than reading Fangirl Down each day. So you
Interesting.
could use that in your marketing, author Olivia Spring, is that I was coming back more to The Match Faker than to Fangirl Down because I was so much enjoying it, so much more than Fangirl Down. Do you want to quickly respond to that?
Yes, I do. The first thing I have to say is I was probably going to read this book anyway, but now you have just rocketed it up to the top of my TBR list because,
Okay. Well, I hope.
and again,
Yeah.
and I know that not everyone is a huge Tessa Bailey fan like me, but yeah, I obviously, and I won't give anything away, loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I can see, and again, I'll save it, but I can see why you might like something else different because I know that's all I'm going to say because I'll save it for our next episode.
We talked about Fangirl Down off camera.
Yes.
We're waiting for the right time to like really explore it because we feel that it needs to be explored in full on an episode.
And I think we have to do it soon because I just talked to my cousin who just read it and she loved it. And the scene that I think we all know about, she also was like, "What?" at that one scene of
the scene.
The scene. And we were talking about it a lot.
We might need to get a few people in on that discussion.
Yes, and have like I think we should.
We might need to because we don't want to make it me versus you.
Yeah.
We want it to be my team versus your team.
Yeah.
We want to go epic on this.
Winner takes all. I don't know what we get, but we're going to take it all.
Yeah. Yeah. The Match Faker, fantastic banter between Mia and Liam as the couple reconnect to their past friendship, which is mentioned in glimpses, not though too much so as to overshadow the current story. There is an organic transition from Mia and Liam being these estranged former friends to genuine in love lovers. Both Mia and Liam execute romantic gestures that are very swoon worthy. Usually you get a lot of the male protagonist doing the gestures, which Liam does. He's very sweet. But Mia also does a few things. One that comes to mind that I won't mention because I don't want to spoil it, but it's part of the ice cream sex scene, is super sweet. And I was like, oh my God, oh, Mia, good for you. The dual point of view is used to great effect. It adds a depth to both Mia and Liam's internal struggles, and that further invests the reader in their love story, which is always a great thing. I love Mia's parents. Mia's parents are in there, and there's food, Libby. You know,
Yes.
we like when there's food.
I love when there's food.
And I always love when it's a cuisine I'm not as familiar with. So Mia is of Jamaican descent and her
Oh,
parents are from Jamaica. And did a scene with Jamaican dishes that was totally mouthwatering. And
ooh,
there's mention of a dessert, Libby. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, called coconut drops.
coconut. No, I've never heard of that.
Yes, coconut drops. It's fresh coconut, like shavings covered in ginger and like a brown sugar syrup. And
Oh,
and I was like, oh, I hope there's a recipe at the back of the book, even though usually romances don't have that. But it sounded really delicious. So I enjoyed also just the cultural cuisine of Mia's family.
yeah.
Um, and as I mentioned, there is an ice cream sex scene. It's too delicious to describe. So you'll just have to read The Matchmaker by Olivia Spring. So thank you again, Olivia Spring, for sending that arc to me. So Libby, take my hand and
Yeah.
take me on your journey of fake dating with a twist.
So, and this one, again, it comes up if you search for fake dating books. And when I saw it at first, I'm like, well, I read this and I didn't associate it with fake dating. But then the more I think about it, I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. So my next book rec for the fake dating trope is The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This came out from Berkeley
Oh.
back in 2021.
Mhm.
It is a standalone. It has the workplace romance, kind of the rivals to lovers. I guess sort of like loosely enemies to lovers. They weren't really enemies. They just didn't like each other at first. But
Yeah.
here's where the fake dating comes in. Instead of pretending to date, they're actually pretending that they dated in the past for their jobs right now. And then they
What?
fall in love while faking that they were together. The more I think about it, the more I remember how much I love this book. This was her debut. This was my first book that I read from Rachel Lynn Solomon. So
Right.
let me give you the general premise. We have Shay, who is a producer for Seattle Public Radio, and she's been there for years. This is her dream job, the only place she's ever wanted to work. But there's a hitch in her career plans, and that is their new hire, Dominic, who is convinced he knows everything about public radio, even though he doesn't have the experience. And I think we've all worked with someone like that, whether it comes into a relationship setting or
Yeah.
not. So
Yeah.
that's the thing with this book is that Solomon has such relatable everyday experiences that the way that she writes them, like even obviously I've never worked on public radio, but reading how she talks about like the work interactions, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have all been there in some capacity. So
Mhm.
very relatable. So the station has brought in Dominic to kind of shake things up, and they propose, or Shay proposes a new show idea to kind of liven up the ratings with their podcast offerings.
Yeah.
And so she suggests the X Talk, which is where they would have two exes discuss dating and love on the air, and then they would take questions from people in the audience. So the only
Okay.
problem is their boss suggests that Shay and Dominic take the roles even though they've never dated, but because they hate each other and they think that that banter will really come through on air. So
Oh.
the show grows in popularity and they have to keep up this lie that they didn't work out for a reason. All the while, well, even though they're still nibbling at each other, they're also both starting to fall in love. So I, the way, again, that Solomon writes the interactions between Dominic and Shay are very relatable and understanding from from and I don't want to give anything away with any of their backstories or why they didn't like each other because that's more fun to discover on the page. But she just does such a good job of turning their banter from like kind of nibbing at each other on the job to then they have this moment and it's you can see that they're connecting and you can see the way that they're pushing and pulling with each other.
Yeah.
It is just such a well done story, and I can understand why she has become or is becoming one of the biggest Berkeley authors right now. It's just a very good book, first of all, but I just, in general, I've read everything that she's written as soon as it comes out because I think she's fabulous.
First of all, I love that they have to pretend that
That they dated.
like that is a fantastic. I love twists on fake dating because I feel like the romance space is becoming oversaturated with traditional fake dating stories. So if we
Mhm.
want to keep this trope alive and keep it going, we've got to make changes to it. We've got to play with it.
Yes. And I think this was a fun way to do it because watching Shay and Dominic fall in love through the narrative that they hate each other because of fake things that happened in their past. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was just such a web of deceit that you can really tell they're struggling with, but at the same time,
Yeah.
because she loves her job so much, she's
Right.
willing to put so yeah, it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
it just such a good book, and the writing was great and the pacing was great. And I can't remember, it had a little bit of steam, but this is not again,
Okay.
I can go either way with it being, steamy throughout or just, the one payoff scene.
Yeah.
But it's just they felt like genuine people that you would hear on a podcast or, see on
Yeah.
TV. And yeah, years later, I still randomly will think about it and be like, oh my God, I love that book. I highly, highly recommend The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. So it came out back in 2021. So not too old. So Liz, now we have traveled through all sorts of fake dating tropes. What do you have for us next?
I have fake engagement coupled with fake pregnancy.
What?
Oh, all the faking.
I recommend Fake Engagement, Fake Pregnancy, Grumpy Sunshine Rom-Com, A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. And this is book one in the Kane Brothers series. So this is Huxley's story.
Yes.
We talked to Megan in January about A Long Time Coming, which is Breaker's story.
Which is a top favorite of mine and lives rent-free up here.
And I liked this one, book one in the series, pretty much almost as much as I loved the A Long Time Coming.
Okay, because I have this and I have not started it just because of a variety of other books I have to read first.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to hear what you think because
yeah.
I am excited.
So, A Not So Meet Cute was first published by Megan Quinn's Hotlanta Publishing in 2021, and then it was republished by Source Books imprint Bloom Books in 2023. So there's a difference in book covers. And it's interesting, speaking of book covers, it went from there being a live model in the one that Megan published, looking all... Actually, the guy in the book looks really sassy and casual, which really doesn't reflect the character very much. But the one republished by Bloom Books is just like illustrated like flowers. It's just like all text and then just a pretty flowery design. Which is, I think eventually that's going to be the future of illustrated covers. I think we're going to get
just the text.
I think it's just going to be text with some kind of design. That's what I think. I think we're headed in that direction.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Here, mark this day down, April 8th. You heard it first.
That's right. So A Not So Meet Cute is inspired by the movie Pretty Woman. So what's interesting is every book in the Kane Brothers series is inspired by a rom-com. So a long time...
Are they all Julia Roberts ones actually that I'm thinking about it?
No.
Okay.
The second book, which is So Not Meant to Be with JP and Kelsey, that is based on When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then A Long Time Coming is My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yep. Okay.
2 out of the 3 is Julia.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, it's a very self-aware book. So there's references to Pretty Woman sprinkled throughout. So it's kind it's kind of meta. And here's the gist. Huxley Kane is a mega wealthy real estate developer who is all business and generally unrelatable. Huxley wants to close a deal with a business associate who he learns is engaged to be married and expecting a child. So Huxley lies to this potential business partner and says that he's also engaged and his fiance is also expecting. Now, this whole deal hinges on Huxley hanging out with this business partner socially as couples.
I love it.
Yes. Enter Lottie Gardner. She is a young business professional. She's 28, who seems a little bit younger, actually, as the book goes on, but she's 28. And Huxley is, I think, in his early 30s. She has just been fired by her toxic boss and longtime frenemy. Lottie needs money to pay off college debt. She wants to move out of her parents because the parents are kind of pushing her out because they, quote, want to be able to walk around naked in the house.
That is such a Megan Quinn thing. I love it.
Yes. And on top of that, Lottie also wants a date to her high school reunion because she wants to show her boss / frenemy, hey, I'm doing okay. Now, Lottie could work for her sister Kelsey, who owns her own organizational business, but Kelsey needs to sign more clients in order to hire Lottie. In a desperate attempt to get her life back on track, Lottie decides to find a rich husband while walking around Beverly Hills. Lottie becomes lost and her phone dies. So she runs into Huxley, who helps point her in the right direction and makes her an offer. If Lottie poses as his fake pregnant fiance, then Huxley will solve all of her problems and help connect Lottie's sister with potential clients. After sealing the deal, Lottie's fun loving, emotive personality clashes with Huxley's serious, austere demeanor.
Excellent.
But, yes, but their intense attraction to each other is one thing they have in common. As they act out their fake engagement ruse, they eventually develop very real feelings for each other.
Oh, it sounds like exactly what you would expect from Megan Quinn. I'm so excited.
It is. And honestly, this is a true rom-com. There are genuine laughs in A Not So Meet Cute. And it's rare that a rom-com makes you laugh this much, or because there's actual comedic situations. And when I think of rom-com, when I think of comedy, I think of situational comedy because
Yes.
there's humor and then there's comedy. And comedy to me is physical. So there is a lot of physical comedy. There is a lot of situational comedy. So this is 1,000% a rom-com.
Awesome.
And raising the stakes by adding the fake pregnancy brilliantly heightens the comedy. So Megan really took this and went balls to the wall with the comedy.
Awesome.
My
Awesome.
favorite scene, and I don't want to give too much away, obviously, but my favorite scene is when Huxley and Lottie attend a newborn baby care class, and there's some kind of animatronic baby doll that they have to care for, and it is to me like the standout scene. There's also a scene where Lottie accompanies the business partners or the potential business partner's fiance to a breast pump fitting in
Oh,
a store that sells breast pumps.
I didn't know you had to go to a special fitting for that. But again, why would I
This
know that?
this could be made up. This might be a fictional thing. I don't know. But as we do know from Megan Quinn, just talking with her, we do know she does a lot of research. So maybe she did
That's true.
maybe she did find this actual store.
Maybe rich people do this.
It could, yes, this could be a rich person thing. That is true. So there's a lot of great grumpy sunshine banter between Lottie and Huxley. Megan's always aces with the banter. Huxley is a grump with a romantic heart of gold. The sex is off the charts. There's yearning, there's edging, there's private jet sex. It's
Oh.
it's all in there, people. Check it out. Read A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. Okay, so what is on your to be read list in the fake dating troposcope?
Troposcope. That sounds like some text
Say
on like
tropescape. I meant to say tropescape, but I'm going to leave that in.
I like it. I think it works.
Troposcope or tropescape. Okay, give it to us, Libby.
Okay, so this one actually I was not aware of until 3 days ago when I got the ARC. This one comes out in May. This is Love, Lies, and Cherry Pie by Jackie Lau. It comes out May of this year from Atria Press. As far as I can tell, it's a standalone. It wasn't listed anywhere as being part of a series, but that doesn't mean it won't be in the future. But this is listed as a fake dating, enemies to lovers, and opposite attracts rom-com. And I have enjoyed her books in the past, and the cover is so freaking cute. I mean, I cannot stress enough how cute this cover is.
Yes, it is cute. I got an ARC from Gramercy Books when we went to the book club.
That's right. Okay, because it did look, the cover looked familiar, but I'm like, I didn't register who it was or what the premise was until I picked it up last week. But anyway, it's an adorable cover. So the general premise is we have writer and barista Emily, who is tired of hearing about the great Mark Chan, the son of her parents' friends. Despite how wonderful everyone thinks Mark is, Emily sees him as just a boring sweater vest wearing engineer. So we have Emily and boring old Mark who wears a sweater vest. And so Emily's mother is meddling and insisting that they get together. And frankly, Emily can't take it anymore. So she suggests to Mark that they pretend to date. And he agrees to this ruse, and shenanigans will ensue. It's from the description, their families start getting involved. And saying they're together is not enough. Their families want to actually see them together. And so they're thrust together into different scenarios. And of course, the more they hang out together, the more Emily will realize that Mark is just more than just a boring sweater vest. And he will realize that Emily is more than, this flighty barista that he is assuming she is.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I am super, super, super excited to read this, aside from the fact that it does sound like a good story, on the back cover of the ARC, Kathy Yardley, who is an author I have recently discovered and really enjoy, she has described the book as, quote, what if Lizzie Bennet asked Mr. Darcy to get into a fake relationship despite their rocky first impressions? This book is a showcase of opposites attracting in the perfect way. And there's something about that description. I'm like, ooh, I don't know. It sounds perfectly, it just sounds perfect in any reference to Pride and Prejudice, obviously. I'm a huge fan of. But I was very intrigued. All the early buzz for this is nothing but glowing recommendations.
Yeah. Maybe we should both read it because we both have the ARC.
We should read it and talk about it later. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah. That was Love, Lies, and Cherry Pie by Jackie Lau, coming out in May.
Excellent. And I'm excited to read that as well. So I picked something for my TBR that I think you're going to get excited about because this is the most unique twist on fake dating that I have come across. I have added 4 Weekends and a Funeral by debut author Ellie Palmer to my TBR. This title releases in summer on August 6, 2024 by G.P. Putnam's Sons. And this includes Fake Dating the Dead.
The Dead.
I love this idea. First of all, I think I've mentioned this before. If I haven't, I've been remiss. I think any rom-com that features a funeral scene or opens with a funeral scene, to me, is my cup of tea.
No, you have mentioned this, and I'm very intrigued.
I have come up with lots of ideas in my mind about writing my own romance with funerals, but I feel like maybe not everyone has my sense of humor.
Yeah.
So here's what 4 Weekends and a Funeral is about. After undergoing a preventative double mastectomy, 30-year-old Allison Mullally arrives at her ex-boyfriend Sam's funeral to find out that no one knows he dumped her. So she agrees to play the grieving girlfriend for the sake of the family and pack up Sam's apartment with his prickly best friend, Adam Berg. After all, it'll only take 4 weekends.
Oh my, I'm already so excited about this.
But Adam doesn't want Allison anywhere near him. Forced to spend long hours with the grump, Allison decides she must put her people-pleasing abilities to the test. She will make him like her. And after awkward family affairs and packing up dilemmas, the two form a tenuous friendship, if friendship means incredible chemistry and tension between them. Can Allison come clean and finally embrace the life and love she's always wanted? Or will her little white lie get in the way of her new unexpected romance?
Oh my gosh, this sounds so good.
I know.
You said it's coming out in August. I have to wait that long?
August 6th. Yes, I know. Yeah, so I'm super excited to read 4 Weekends and a Funeral by debut author Ellie Palmer.
I am very intrigued and excited. Seriously.
Yeah.
What an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love, like, not mistaken identity, but like, people misunderstand people's backgrounds and connections. And,
right.
I feel like there's so much potential for like real humor with this.
Definitely real humor. And I'm hoping this takes off and this becomes kind of a new micro trope within fake dating, is fake dating someone who's dead.
Yeah. We've gone from like squatters to funeral home romances.
Yeah, listen, we've come kind of a long way.
We have. All we needed was a little hiatus to really shake things up.
Do you have any shameless plugs for us, Libby?
Plug it in, plug it in.
Thanks so much for asking, Liz. I happen to have a shameless plug. For those of you who haven't read it yet, the fourth book in my Buckeye Falls series called Faking the Fall is a fake dating trope. You don't have to read the other books to enjoy it. Quirky Alice, the mayor's sister who everybody loves to just, roll their eyes at, coming back home to Buckeye Falls, and she sets up a fake dating arrangement with James, who is a ex-New Yorker artist who is looking to revamp his art career and is looking for a muse. So it's just like the others. It's a little sweet. It's a little cute. But yeah, it's available now. Faking the Fall. Shameless plug.
Plug it in, plug it in.
You write tropes the way I like to consume them, where it's not pushed down your throat, in a very heavy-handed manner. Now, there's fake dating, but it's, first of all, a believable fake dating situation. You don't wring every last drop of fake dating, out. Like it's casual. You get enough of the fake dating, but enough of the realistic, organic build of their love story. Everything that you write is really well balanced, from the character to the plot to your execution of tropes. You
Aw.
don't feel like, sometimes you feel like you're being dragged in different directions when you read some of these stories. You're like, oh man, I'm all over the place. And it also ties so beautifully to it being a small town, romance, which
Mhm.
is, it could be a little out of control at times, but you're always coming back to that solid, stable core.
Yes.
So that's why I'm super excited to read some of your upcoming work.
Yes, Forever to Fall. I'm actually just starting the edits on with my editor on that right now. So August. I don't have a specific date in August, but it's coming in August.
August. Oh, that's exciting.
I'm so excited!
Libby and I are excited to welcome best-selling UK author Laura Carter. Laura's fake dating rom-com, Fake It Till You Make It, released today, April 8th, 2024, by Boldwood Books. Happy release day, Laura.
Happy release day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Romance Roundup.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. What better way to celebrate publication day?
So, Laura, I recall in our last conversation, when you were part of the UK romance author panel on Reader Seeks Romance, you mentioned that you're a lawyer.
I am, yes.
Okay. So I have to open up this discussion by asking, have you ever heard of a legal fake relationship contract? And could you draft one if asked?
I would really like to do that.
I know, right?
I haven't, unsurprisingly, as a corporate lawyer, this hasn't come across my desk, but please, someone send me that job. I would like that.
Because, in a number of fake dating romances, they not in everyone, but in some of them, there'll be mention of a contract, whether it's a verbal
Yes.
agreement or they write something down. So I was like, that's something a lawyer should get in on and start offering those services.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, the one in my head, the only one that's actually buzzing around there is the contract in 50 Shades. And so I feel like that's
Yes.
probably quite niche, quite specialist.
Yes.
But no, you're right. It is, it's quite common in the trope. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might have to add that to your website, is that you're also doing fake relationship contracts.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like the fees for that could be through the roof. People are desperate when they're in a fake relationship, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is a money-making scheme.
Speaking of fake dating, could you share with the audience what Fake It Till You Make It is about?
Well, actually, it's fake dating with a bit of a twist, in that it's also quite strongly mistaken identity.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we meet Abby and Ted. Abby, we meet on the day that she thought her long-term boyfriend would propose. Actually, he tells her that he's been seeing someone else. And she makes a mistake in her job as an auditor, which, many people don't love, but she loves. And so she's kind of at rock bottom when we meet her. And she goes and she splurges her entire wedding fund on staying in this kind of aspirational apartment in New York. And when she goes in there, she meets Ted, who is also reeling from a breakup. And he's fled from San Francisco, hiding away in his professional baseball player brother's apartment in New York. And he's reading his mail when he sees Abby, and she sees his name as Michael Thomas, his baseball playing brother's name, on the mail, and assumes that he is his brother. And Ted is feeling like the actual tech nerd that he is the guy who lost the girl. If he was the kind of arrogant professional baseball player, then perhaps he would get the girl too. So he decides not to correct Abby. And Abby is mistakenly, thanks to her friends and a Tinder profile, Ted thinks an actress. So the numbers girl and the tech guy believe that they are actress and professional baseball player. And when they bump into Abby's horrid ex, they kind of fall into a fake dating relationship. So it's not a contract type fake dating relationship. It's an accidental one with their mistaken identities. So they kind of have this this false fake dating relationship, and Abby is invited to her parents' vow renewal in Canada, and her ex is going to be there. So they take this fake dating relationship on the road to Canada, and they go as Abby and Mike, baseball player, to meet her family. So it's a whole load of fun and miscommunication and shenanigans. And it's actually a closed door romance. It's a sweet one. It's a lighthearted read. So I hope it's as much fun to read as it was to write, because it was a lot of giggles as I was writing this one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So, Laura, the fake dating setup between Abby and Ted is first set in motion by Ted in what I would call a knight in shining armor moment, where Ted is, Abby's neighbor and sees her in an awkward situation with her a-hole ex. And he feels for her because he himself has been, cheated on, and he wants to support her in some way. And he just casually inserts himself into the situation and acts as if they're together and he's her boyfriend. Did you purposely seek out kind of a different way to set up the fake dating premise?
I did, actually. Yeah. This is my first written fake dating book. And of course, I think the thing with romance is the tropes that we see so often and love the most, like fake dating or enemies to lovers. And, they follow a certain convention. And so to make it different to what we've seen before, it's kind of, how do you put a spin on it? So I think the setup was that for me as well, that kind of fall into it. I think Abby actually refers to it as his knight in chauvinistic armor moment.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, because he is, as his playing the role of his brother, he is this kind of arrogant guy.
Yes.
But the truth of it is that they're both heartbroken, and they've both just been dumped, and they've both been cheated on. So it's this kind of chink in his armor. So that's exactly what it is. The real him has that kind of soft heart, and so he slips in. So yes, it was a conscious choice. And as was the mistaken identity piece, well, that obviously had to be, it's quite a big plot point. And it was really, how do I have fun with fake relationship, but make it different to what's already out there in the market?
So looking at all the books that you've written, you've covered obviously more than fake dating. You've done enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, opposites attract. As a writer, do you have a trope that you gravitate towards more to write, that you enjoy writing more, or do they each pose a certain challenge for you?
I love enemies to lovers.
Okay.
Yeah, so fake dating was really, really fun to write. But it was hard because of the mistaken identity element too. But it does have that, because of the mistaken identity, it does also have that kind of feel of enemies to lovers, I think, particularly in the early part of the book. And I love that because you get to just have the sarcastic, kind of witty comments, the banter back and forth. It's almost like you don't have to try very hard to have fun with it because the characters are
Yeah.
just running with it. And it's kind of, even as an author, once I've got the characters in my head, I feel like I let them go and do their own thing.
Mhm.
And I feel like with Enemies to Lovers, I sit there writing, smiling, going, she didn't. No. And I read it back when I'm editing and go, who said that? Who came up with that? When did that happen? So yeah, I'd say Enemies to Lovers is I have fun with all of them, but
Yeah.
Enemies to Lovers, I think, is the trope that recurs even when I'm not actively thinking I'm going to write a book around this trope. Enemies to Lovers is the one that kind of pops up because I like the sarcasm of it. I like to make kind of a witty girl and I also, what I'm having fun with of late is like making kind of dorky guys as well. I think there's been a shift in the market from that really strong alpha male.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I actually love it. I did write alpha males when that was what the market was doing, but
Yeah.
I love finding I think it's why I love Ted in this book so much, actually, because he was just a bit of a dork. He was a bit geeky, a bit nerdy. And I think it can make for a more real character, even though it's in an unrealistic setting, especially with fake dating. But yeah, so I'm loving Enemies to Lovers and loving dorky guys too.
So, Laura, I read an arc and then learned that you had added an epilogue, which you sent to me. So there's an epilogue in the finished version of Fake It Till You Make It. So what prompted you to add the epilogue?
So it was a bit of a marketing decision, honestly. So I did quite a big structural edit with my editor, my publisher on this one, and it was really around making that mistaken identity work, making everything smooth. And so there were actually quite a few scenes from the end of the book that we cut. There were quite a few scenes of Ted and Abby in Canada. So at the time when we cut them, I think we were so focused on getting the plot smooth and trying to get the pacing right, that we kind of went, okay, well, we don't need them. This is a good place to end. And then and it's kind of a mic drop where it was without the epilogue. It was a little bit. And so then I said, actually, you know what? I've got all of these scenes and I think that we should see Abby and Ted. What are they doing afterwards? And so the discussion we were having with my publisher was, if we write these scenes as an epilogue, could we keep them as a marketing tool? So effectively, you kind of get the book, use it alongside a subscribe to a newsletter or something like that.
Right.
And so that was where we were going at first. That was the plan. And then the advanced reviews were really screaming for it. Literally, like people were going, but we just want to know, like, where is the epilogue? What happened with this and what happened with that? And the scenes were written. So it was kind of it was a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. We had it in there. So if people were really that keen to see it, then we started to think, what, this isn't fair. This isn't fair anymore. Put it in the book.
Yeah, agreed. I think that the epilogue really worked well with Fake It Till You Make It.
So as a writer, do you in general have an outline when you go into each book, or do you kind of just fly by the seat of your pants and see what the characters tell you?
A mix. Okay. A mix. So usually I get my characters. Once I've got them in my head, I feel like the world sort of sets itself. And I will have a broad idea of where the story's going, the arc I want the character to go on, and their own development. So usually I get their internal arc, I guess, first. Yeah. And then as I'm writing, sometimes they do things I didn't expect. And I think if I try and force it to meet a plan too strictly, then they just start screaming at me anyway. It doesn't work. They go off on a frolic of their own. You know, I have very obstinate characters. I sort of have an idea of where the story's going, but I will let the characters develop it naturally. But ironically, the book that I've just written, I plotted from start to finish.
Oh, okay.
And it's the easiest book I've ever written. So I might be becoming a plotter, actually.
Okay. Can
Yeah,
you
I
give us a
think-
little taste of what you're working on?
Yeah, I probably can. It is an enemies to lovers, second chance. Well, in fact, it's probably more haters to lovers, this one. Second chance romance, set in paradise, but I won't tell you where that is.
Ooh, okay. And I
Yes,
love
and it
second
will be-
chance.
Yeah.
It will be, yeah, me too. And it will be ever so slightly sexier than Fake It Till You Make It. So, but
Okay.
not outrageously so. I don't know how many chilies to give it. If Fake It Till You Make It has one chili, then it's probably still only, you know, like a 3.
Okay.
So it's not particularly raunchy, but I think because it's second chances, it lends itself to the chemistry being kind of hot and feisty. So I'm actually editing that one now. I finished it. So my deadline for submitting that one is the end of April. So I'm just in the thick of my own edits before it goes to my publisher. And I think we'll have quite a fast turnaround. So we'll hopefully see that one in October.
Oh, that's awesome. We don't have to wait long at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
That's a quick turnaround. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, so Laura, this episode is obviously about your book as well, but we're talking about fake dating tropes in general. So as a reader, is there a fake dating book or books that you've really enjoyed that you would recommend to our viewers and listeners?
I am devouring fake dating books at the moment.
Ooh.
So I have a rule when I'm writing that if I'm writing a theme, or especially if it's a quite, you know, kind of the more niche trope like fake dating, that I don't read those books whilst I'm going through the whole of the writing process. So once I finished Fake It Till You Make It, I was able to just kind of go wild on all of the fake dating books sitting on my to be read list. So yes, I'm reading at the moment Happy Place by Emily Henry.
Oh, yes. I haven't read that one yet, but that is on the top of my list.
I am literally, I mean, when we finish recording, I will probably just go and bury myself back in that book. It's amazing.
Oh, wow.
It's like a masterclass in descriptions. Because, you know, with romance, it's so hard to say things in a different way. And Emily Henry does a great job. So I'm loving that at the moment, although I'm not finished yet. I've also recently read The Spanish Love Deception.
Oh, yes.
Lena Armas, which I really loved. And Ali Hazelwood's Love Theoretically. I just read that. I read that when I was on holiday, actually. And really enjoyed that one. Another fun one was Beth Rickles' Faking It. I read that recently.
Yes, that is also, I like her. I haven't read her enough.
Author of The Kissing Booth. So we're actually at the same agency, so I have a soft spot for her. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And another author I know you've mentioned on the podcast before, actually, is Portia McIntosh, who's same publisher as me.
Yes.
She did The Faking Game. The female protagonist is she sets up game rooms and stuff.
Yeah, that's the one that I mentioned on the show.
Yeah.
Yes, you have mentioned it before. Yeah, I've listened to that episode.
The +1 pact.
Oh, but was it re-released as The Faking Game?
Oh, was it? When I read it, it was the +1 pact where the female protagonist worked in the escape room. She created escape rooms.
No, so maybe that was the first one, actually, in the fake dating, because the one you're talking about, Millsy, isn't it? The guy is Millsy.
Yeah, Mills, yeah.
Is that their original romance?
Oh, you mean they have another book together?
Yes, so in the faking game, they've separated.
What?
And yes. Yes, so there you go. There's a second one.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea there
That's
was two.
interesting. Has any other author done that where a couple got together in the book's first book and the second one is their second chance romance? Because I've never heard of that.
Well, you don't want to know about the second one whilst you're reading the first one, do you?
That's true. That's true.
Right,
That's
but
gonna-
wow, I didn't know
Yes.
that. Okay.
And interestingly, I had read that, and then I heard you on the podcast. This is coming back to me now, talking about the +1 pact. And I was like, hang on, we're talking about, because you'd mentioned Millsy and you'd mentioned the
Yeah.
gaming room, and I thought, oh, we're talking about the same book. But actually, no, so it's the second one after that. So there you go, there's a book for you. And you definitely don't need to have read the first one, because I didn't.
Any other titles, or you just want to end with blowing my mind?
That feels like a good note for me.
Okay. It was a delight chatting with you today, Laura. Thank you again for making time to join us on Romance Roundup on your release day of Fake It Till You Make It.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so nice speaking with you both.
And that's our roundup. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, romance readers.
Happy reading, everyone.